Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. It's February 5th, 2022, and this is episode 66 of the workshop podcast, 2/3 the way to 100. So it's Saturday. A lot of times my Saturday episode can be all over the place. I decided today that our topic is going to be cash from trash. This came out of the Fireside Freedom episode we had this week, where we were talking about literally how do you decide when to save something? How do you decide if it's worth saving? And what do you save? What do you sell? Where do you sell it? How do you sell it? And all of that. And you guys know I do a ton of emptying out old properties, either left behind wrecked rentals or abandoned repoed bank properties. And I end up getting paid to haul the stuff away to the landfill. And anything that's in there, I can turn around and sell if I want or use or whatever. So we're going to talk about just the whole mindset, a bunch of questions I ask myself, because it can get overwhelming sometimes with having access to so much free junk as a hoarder, like I can be on occasion. So, but before that, I want to share with you guys, I thought this would be fun, the 5 items that I have either picked up, scavenged, bought for cheap, or saved from literal dump, literally go into the dump, that I've ended up selling or keeping, that have been kind of my favorite finds over the years. So number one, you guys seen recently, I found an 8-inch cast iron frying pan, something from probably around the 1930s, Canadian made. Looked it up on eBay. Now here's the thing, a lot of people always say, oh, it's worth $300 on eBay. No, it's listed for $300 on eBay. What you need to do is look at previous sales and look at multiple previous sales in your country. But this sells for between $80 and $100. And I found it just sitting in a box of junk heading to the landfill. And I thought, this is a great find. But you know what? I'm not going to sell it. It's coming home with me. Well, it's already came home with me. You guys saw that video. I was really proud of that. That was just an incredible find. Now, another one, I had a bank property a while back, and I cleaned up and I opened up a box of collectibles, and most of it was just junk. But inside was a Vince Carter autograph jersey card, basketball, if you're not familiar. And without it being graded, if you guys have seen graded cards, graded versions of that are selling consistently for $400 to $500. Ungraded, the way it sits, it's selling for around $200 to $250. I haven't sold it yet. I priced it high on eBay on purpose just to see if I'd get any bites, but it's there and I'm going to sell it. The next one, this was some G.I. Joes in the box. I actually picked these up at a yard sale, but I included them because I only paid $2 a piece for them. I ended up selling them for well over $100 a piece. I had three actually. I had one was a base and a couple were jets, and they sold really well on eBay. I don't do this all the time, but sometimes I do. Now, another day, quite some time ago, we pulled into a landfill. It wasn't the one here in my town, but it was a landfill. And we'd seen that somebody had been cleaning out their, just must have been an old relative's home or something. I'm not even sure. And I look over there, and what do I see? But a Nintendo Entertainment System box in pristine condition with the store price tag still on it. The boxes alone sell for like $100 sometimes. I'm not exactly sure where the price is, but in that ballpark. But I looked around a little closer, opened it up, and there is the Nintendo, still in the box, still in the original styrofoam. I have the whole thing up on my shelf. I'll never sell it. That's nothing will ever top that as far as a find goes. But that to me was a cool one. See, you look out for that kind of stuff. I'm not even sure what I could sell it for, but I'm not going to sell it. And then the one that was the most unexpected, and if you guys are old like me, when I was in college, university days, I had a mini disc player. So if you guys remember mini discs, they look like a hybrid between a floppy disk and a CD. Look like something futuristic. They're about 3-4 inches square, and they fit in. You could play MP3s or audio files off them. Anyway, I didn't even realize at the time, but they made pre-recorded mini discs, which were really cool. And I found 3 or 4. One was like the Top Gun soundtrack or whatever, but this was an old hoarder's house. We'd cleaned up. Everything had to go to the dump. And inside, I found a Pink Floyd, The Wall. I can't remember if it was a 2-disc or 4-disc, but it looked like about the size of a cassette tape. You open it up and the discs were in there. And I listed it on eBay. I forgot to look it up now, but it sold in like 5 or 10 minutes for like $150. And I had no idea it was worth what it was. And it sold quick. And I probably could have got double that out of it, but it was a really cool find. I didn't save any pictures of it. I might be able to find the old listing sometime, but I just thought I love hearing stories of people's cool finds when they're, doing junk and that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd been planning on sharing this for a while. I thought this is the best episode to share it with you. So now, when we deal with garbage, it doesn't matter what it is, whether you're hauling garbage for people or you're cleaning up properties or you're walking the side of the road. How do you decide whether something's worth saving or tossing? To me, that is the question. Because let me go into this a little bit. When we first started, my wife and I, we didn't even have one storage container, let alone two like we do now. So all we had was the garage. And we started, people would be like, okay, I need you to haul a couch and a bed and a love seat to the dump for me. And we'd be like, okay, sure. And they'd pay me for that. And all they cared was that it was gone. And occasionally I would save some and I'd be like, oh, we could sell this or we could give this to the family or whatever. And what ended up happening was I would trip over the damn stuff because we'd have the best intentions in the world. And then it would go in the garage. And then every time I went in the garage to work, I'd have to haul it out or move it around or trip over it or cuss about it. So I had to come up with a solution because otherwise I would just be drowning in supposed cash for trash. But a lot of times what would happen is, your eyes would see something and be like, oh, I can make money off that. But the problem is it worth your time? So what questions do I ask? Number one, and this is the first one, is it construction material? Any and all construction material I save. I have a C-can for it because I will always use it. Whether it's 2x4s, anything more than a 4-foot length of 2x4, plywood, OSB, which is chipboard, any of that stuff, old siding, boxes of nails, boxes of screws, any construction material that's of at least a size enough that I know I can use and it's not broken and rotten or worn out, I'll save that. Now, remember, these questions will vary for you guys because you might not be in the construction business. But another thing, threaded rod. I was cleaning out a shed at an old abandoned trailer one time, and I found 8 or 10 pieces of threaded rod, 8 or 10 pieces of unthreaded rod, a few pieces of angle iron, a few pieces of punch strap, which is like angle iron, but with holes in it that you can mount, say, garage door tracks to it. That all went up there. And, I've used that over the years. I've used the unthreaded rod as weights for hanging banners. I've used the angle iron to hang my furnace in the garage and my brother-in-law's furnace in his garage. So that kind of stuff doesn't take up a lot of space, but building supplies rarely ever go down in price. So if you can have it, it's like money in the bank. So that's the first one. Number two, can I use it in my business? So, and I don't mean maybe. I don't mean like an old screwdriver that came over on the Ark with Noah and it's rusty and bent and I might use it, or a set of sockets that I'll never use, that kind of. I mean, like, is it a brand new ladder or a ladder that's in good shape? Or how about extension cords? I use them all the time. Or work lights. If I find work lights that I can use, I save them and I use them. I have another little shed out front that some of that stuff goes into, but if something goes in that front shed, there's a good chance it's eventually going to go to the landfill, because if it's out of sight, out of mind, I'm not using it. But if it's something I can use in my business, how about power bars or electrical splitters, that kind of stuff, any of that. Boxes of electrical outlets, packages of electrical plug covers, Moret, wire connectors, any of that kind of stuff. But so if it's construction material or if I can use it in my business, like a tool or something, what I really like are those Black & Decker workbenches. They fold down. They don't take up a lot of space. I found a couple of them over the years. Step stools, step ladders, those are great too. I use them all the time. If they're in good shape, if they're secure, then yes. Folding tables are another thing. I found a couple of those nice 8-foot long folding tables. I found a nice round folding table, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'll save it within a reason. Sometimes it gets too much and I get rid of it. Is it a prep item? So this is the next one. Mason jars are great. I have so many mason jars. I've standardized on the standard mouth mason jars. Some people use both, but that's just what I do. We did a house out of town about an hour away, and the house was full from top to bottom, and about the only thing we saved was 12 dozen mason jars. So yeah, again, mason jars are a great one that I save all the time. Mason jar rings are another one. Knives. Sometimes I found that same house, I did find some knives in. Extension cords again. Power splitters are another thing. Occasionally food, but rarely, because you don't know if it's frozen or, if it's dry goods and the house has been heated, then maybe, but I usually stay away from that. But first aid supplies, if you find an unopened package of medicine or Band-Aids or things like that, that is within date and doesn't look like it's been soiled or anything, then yeah, 3M masks, N95 masks, we used to find a lot of those in boxes sitting on shelves in workshops, that kind of stuff. Just anything you can use. 5-gallon pails that are clean and not, never had petroleum products or anything like that in. I'll save those. Jerry cans, I standardized on the Scepter brand. I'm not sure if you guys have Scepter in the US, but that's the brand I use. So if I can find, here's the thing, if I go and I find an old jerry can and say it's got cracks or holes in it, but the nozzle's good, or the collar's good, or the plug's good, I'll save all that because I love to have those extra pieces on hand. How about things like oil for your vehicle, if it's good oil? Cleaning supplies are another thing. I find cleaning supplies all the time. And that's cleaning supplies rarely ever goes bad, whether it's big containers of rubbing alcohol or big containers of Mr. Clean, all that stuff. So I'll save that. Now, the next thing, this is more on the lines of, will I sell it or can I sell it? So the first question I ask is it small? So if it's small, then the answer, will I keep it, is quite more often yes. So what I'll end up doing is, if it's something, you notice all 5 of those items that I told you about earlier were all small items. They're high ticket items that are small, that don't take up a lot of space. So if I can't sell it immediately, the small item isn't going to be something that I'm going to trip over. So think about it that way too, guys. Give it some thought and be like, okay, well, is it going to be worth it? Will it take me a little while to sell it? Possibly, but is it small enough that I can just set it on a shelf and forget about it? That's where my Vince Carter card is right now. I'm in no hurry to sell it, but when it sells, I will make the money off it, and I'm okay with that. How about the next one? If it's a large item, will it sell immediately? So we had an elliptical trainer that we found in one old home, and I called the guy. I posted it online before we even hauled it out of the house. And he's like, yeah, I live near you. So I did end up bringing it back to our place, but we sold it as quick as we got it back to our storage container. So for large items, the only way I'll sell it is the only way I'll bring it back to one of my storage containers is if I know it'll sell immediately, or if I've already got a sale for it before I even bring it home. Because otherwise, what do they say? The best intentions of mice and men. You end up tripping over it. You think, oh, the kids will use it or so-and-so will use it. Nah, it just doesn't work that way. You end up getting stuck with it, or you end up breaking it, or it's in your way and you trip over it for the next 6 months or whatever, Now, is it worth my time hauling it home instead of to the dump? So a lot of times you got to think about it. You're like, how much am I going to make off this? Because if I'm going to, if I have a sale for this couch, but I'm only going to make $30 off it, and I'm going to spend an extra hour hauling it back, putting it in the C-can, putting it online, having 3 people cancel before they show up. So is it worth my time to actually haul it back? And that was good. I think it was Ken in Fireside the other day. He said he had a $100 minimum for anything that he sold. And I think that's a really good idea. I've never really implemented a minimum, but to me, that's definitely something worth looking at. Have yourself a minimum of how much something needs to sell for before you're going to bring it home, because otherwise you're going to end up tripping over things, having a fire hazard, safety hazard, just being miserable in your life because, well, I might be able to sell that sometime, so I think I'll bring it home. And then it sits and it breaks, or, we ended up having a free yard sale at the daycare, or a donate what you can yard sale at the daycare, simply because we had the C-can so full of good quality items that we'll save for a rainy day that we just needed to get rid of it. So we put it up there. The girls made a couple $100 for the daycare. Then we put everything for free, and whatever was left ended up going to the landfill. It was a perfect way to do it. So if you're ever thinking I got to get rid of some stuff, try that. Now, something else. I get these questions all the time. Everybody sees me, oh, Tim, all that wasted grass clippings, all those wasted leaves, you could. I would make, mulch out of it, or I would sell it as mulch material, or, and I get it. I hate the idea that some of this stuff ends up going to the landfill, but I have to be practical. I live in a suburban area in a town. I only have a lot that's so big. I already have a camper and a dump truck and occasionally 2 trucks parked in my property. I have a garage and then I have a fenced in yard. That's all the space I have. And we also rent or lease another storage container off site. And that's all the storage room I have. I don't have room to bring in leaves and grass and let them sit there and then sell them down the road. I just don't. I wish I did. If I had room to have a great big landscaping business where I could just put that stuff down and sell it, then I probably would. Maybe not. I don't know. It would have to be worth my time. So what is a viable business opportunity to some people may not work in your situation. So remember that. Just because you could make money off it doesn't mean you have to. Find the thing that makes you the most money for the least amount of work and the least amount of headache. But now here's another thing, scrap metal. Okay. A lot of times people are like, oh, you should save all your scrap metal. Well, let's put it this way. Copper and batteries are worth it to me because I can save up enough copper another thing I save a lot of is old Rubbermaid garbage cans. So I can save up enough copper pipe that I cut out from houses or copper wire, pipe's worth more, of course, in 2 or 3 buckets that'll give me $200 or $300 worth of copper. Old automotive batteries are the same way. They pay by the pound, and lead seems to be really well most times. Last time I went in, I think I got almost $18 a battery for these big old batteries. So that was worth it to me. And have somewhere that you know that you can end up taking it in and making your money for. But now scrap steel, scrap iron, that kind of stuff, I don't have the space for it because they pay you by the ton. They don't pay you by the pound. Where the hell am I going to put a ton of scrap metal? I'm not bringing in a special dumpster for it. For some people, if you have the room and they don't charge you for the dumpster, then yeah, put a dumpster there, throw your scrap metal in it, allow them to haul it away and allow them to give you 50% of the scrap metal cost. It's great. And yes, I do try to recycle as much as I can, but it comes down to the fact that people pay me to haul garbage away. And if I saved everything, I would be the landfill, not the landfill. So one other thing I wanted to, a couple other things actually. It's okay to collect things. I have a couple of I have 2 shelves of oddball antique items, things like old-fashioned pesticide sprayers, or I got an old little box of drywall mud, an old 1-pound propane canister. I love that kind of stuff, an old wine bottle, just different things that I find that are still in good shape that I end up setting up on the shelf. I brought home some oil lamps as well. And I saved them. I may end up finding new wicks for them and using them at some point, but at least they're up there on the shelf, and that's my little collection. There's no other reason other than it brings me joy. So remember, it's okay to do that. But when the things that bring you joy end up getting in your way and causing you grief, then skip it, And then I've got one other thing about this kind of, trash for cash, cash for trash. There's a couple I went to college with, Nikki and Kevin, and they're an incredibly motivating and inspiring couple. They do everything they can to live within their means and find other ways to make money. And Nikki is an absolute, she's top notch when it comes to flipping furniture. And I don't mean like going in and getting pissed off and flipping a table over. She knows what will sell. So if you have an eye for something, I see her all the time she bought an old coach the other day. I think it was like $40. She recovered it with just pullover covers. It was a vintage kind of one. And she ended up selling it for like 10 times that, like $400. Or she'll buy a table and paint it or sand the legs down. And rarely does it ever look like she spends a lot of time on any of this. She knows what she's doing. It's not something that you can develop overnight, but if you have the space for a few items and you want to test the waters with it, it's definitely worth it. I mean, especially if you get it for free. But, go on Craigslist, Facebook, Marketplace, Kijiji if you're in Canada, and just look at what stuff is selling for, and then look at what you can buy it for. That's always the way to do it. But she buys this stuff that is literally someone else's trash, and then she fixes it up, flips it, turns it into income for her family. So, all right, guys, I hope that helps. For me, when it comes down to it, is it going to increase my freedom, and is it going to increase my pocketbook? Is it going to fill my wallet with money? That's what it comes down to. If not, if I'm going to be tripping over it, or if it's going to end up just needing to be hauled to the garbage down the road and cost me more money, or if I'm going to have to store it for months and it's going to take up valuable real estate space, then I skip it. I'd love to hear from you guys what your thoughts are. I'm going to do a cool little, we got all kinds of contests going on. So if you were good enough to listen to the end of this, I would love to hear your story of the best thing you flipped to make money, the best thing you bought low and sold high, the best thing that you found at a landfill, whatever. I just want to hear your best story about one time you turned trash into cash or trash into something treasured. And if I get enough, I'd love, even 4 or 5. I'm going to pick the best one. And I don't have any with me right now, but I just recently got, if you guys see a lot of YouTubers have these stickers. So I got Toolman Tim YouTube channel stickers. So whoever has the best story, I'll get your address from you and I'll send you out 2 or 3 of those stickers in an envelope. Just something fun to do. I love getting feedback from you guys. So if you listened all the way to the end, thank you. I appreciate it. And it'll be fun to give it away. Anyway, guys, that's it for me this week. If you're listening, don't forget to enter the contest at toolmantim.co. Huge giveaway there. Prepper gear giveaway. We got a bunch of cool prizes. The grand prize is a Lansky knife sharpening system, which I love. All the gear stuff I use, to Govee freezer alarm. We've got a Kuman kilowatt meter. We have an Easy Does It can opener and a 34-piece deluxe tire plug kit. So all you got to do is drop by toolmantim.co and enter. First entry, you just get it for entering. And then the other 4 you can earn, or if you're already subscribers to certain things, just click I'm already a subscriber and you'll get an extra entry for that. That's it for me, guys. Thanks for dropping by the workshop this week. I always appreciate it. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.